Hi, Dondi. Um, okay, so I think we're going to just kind of talk about our projects and what struggles we had and what came easy. Because that's, I think, what we spent a lot of our time doing since the last project. So for mine, um, I spent a lot of time trying to make my code flexible so that if you moved anything, everything would change. Um, and I got it like down for the X and Y ways, but then expanding, like widening it or changing the height sometimes messed with like the triangles and stuff. And at a certain point, I was just like, I can't keep doing these like crazy fractions. I'm just not going to do it anymore. Um, and I realized that as we were doing the show and tell that I spent so much time on like the details of like the chapel, for example, that I didn't put the ground in, so it was just like floating in the sky. Um, and I tried to make my code as clean as possible in terms of like grouping the variables and grouping functions and everything. But then as I was seeing other people's in classes, I realized that it would be so much easier if I had put everything in a function and done it like all at the bottom. And so that's something that I definitely want to do next time. And part of that also came because I started working on it before I think I fully understood functions. And so I was doing a lot of things like manually and then putting it back into functions. And it would have been a lot easier if I had just done the functions in the first place. Yeah, that was especially true for the chapel.
Is there anything you didn't understand?
No, it took me a long time to figure out how to do the clock on the chapel. And Dondi kind of helped me with it a little bit because I had a clock face that worked and everything moved together. But then he made me one that would like rotate perfectly if I just changed one variable. Because before I had put the angles in myself essentially.
Okay.
So that was cool. That was a cool trick that I learned, and I'm glad I did that because that was a cool thing to like learn how to do the clock. Other things that I struggled with. Oh, I didn't. Something else that Dawn had to tell me was that I couldn't get my face winks essentially when you mouse over her eye, and I didn't have it in a draw function, so it wouldn't draw it over and over again. So that's something that I had to. I had to make that connection that like that's what the draw function is for. Gosh, I think other kind of going back to my trying to get it to be completely flexible. When I was doing the clock and I was doing the rotate and translate functions, I was looking at the like crib sheet or whatever, and I was like, it would really make a lot more sense to just do like a translate function or transform. But again, I was like, it's too late. I'm just doing it. But that makes a lot more sense too. So I'm happy with the way mine turned out, but I feel like if I were to do it again, I would do it differently and it would probably be a lot cleaner. What about you?
In terms of mine, we learned about the Khan Academy stuff we went through. So I went through the whole thing and learned like loops and objects and arrays and stuff. But with my project, I was also focusing on like if you change a variable, you could change everything. And one thing I didn't understand was the translate and scale. Like I think Dondi said that if we, like you could do that. I was doing everything in terms of one X and Y variable.
Yeah, me too. And like referencing it back to one
always
point.
Referencing it. But he said you could do it in translate and scale, but I tried that and I didn't really understand how that worked. Also, again, in terms of what we learned, we also learned like stuff when we were displaying our projects. We learned like tautologies and how, like if you have a equal to true, you don't need to have that bit if it's a Boolean variable. And then of course,
I really liked your like is angry. That was so fun. That was a good feature.
Yeah, and again, we also learned at the last class like Python, a little bit of Python, how to just do functions and stuff, and that. again, if I went back and did my project again, I would do more like animation stuff because I didn't have that. Instead of making my is angry true or false, I could have just made it like a click and changing and stuff like that. So I wanted to add more animations and stuff. But other than that, I think it's good.
Yeah, I would definitely enjoy doing having another project like this where we kind of had a lot of freedom to choose what we made, so that I could work on like having a good code and like making it clean, but also like kind of playing around with adding different animations and stuff. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, and also like maybe a project that wasn't a drawing or like maybe more like math or like
that would be cool.
Else.
Like a calculator thing would be cool.
In terms of a question I wanted to know like how to accept not like we can only so far we've learned how to do like mouse clicks or like keyboard clicks, but how to like actually accept words or numbers.
Oh yeah, like a command kind of thing.
Yeah, a command of some kind.
That's cool.
That would be like that's a question I had is how you do that in JavaScript.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Any questions you have?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't know right now. I guess I would maybe like a refresher in loops, just because when I did the loops thing, I thought that I knew like what the difference between a for loop and a while loop is, but then when we were doing arrays, I didn't really see the difference between them in like the array practice thing, and that may just be because it's doing the same thing in that instance.
And they do the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's just that
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and I would also like in class to do like objects and classes because like I learned that back in high school, but it's also kind of confusing when I did it in C++. And this is it's different here.
I learned C++. I learned a very small amount my freshman year, so that's what I was used to. But I like Java. In terms of like what we do next in the class, I do think it would be really cool to talk about either like current events or current, more modern like ethical issues related to like coding and computer science and how those can relate. I know Donnie always talks about like the AI apocalypse or whatever, but something like that, I think it is cool because I do feel like I have at least somewhat of a better understanding of what goes into it, so that it would be cool to bring those kind of topics into conversation within class.
Yeah, in my view, it might be interesting to like alternate between like a coding, or, like a computer actually doing something and talking about abstract stuff. So maybe next we talk about an abstract thing, or like maybe cryptology or something like that. And then we go back to some coding. We can do like app development, although that was daunting.
Yeah,
the Wikipedia thing he showed us.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so that would be interesting, but I'd like to alternate.
Any other last thoughts? I think we're good.
Yes.
Thanks, Dondi.
Thank you.